John Miller rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the computer screen. The clock on the wall showed 3:17 a.m. The NASA Deep Space Network facility was quiet at this hour, with most staff gone home for the night. John took a sip of his cold coffee and continued his regular checks of incoming signals from space. That's when he saw it. At first, it looked like normal space noise, but something caught his eye, a pattern that repeated too perfectly to be natural. John sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. He ran the signal through the basic filters, and what emerged made his heart beat faster. "This can't be right," he whispered to himself. He picked up the phone and dialed his supervisor's number. "Lisa, it's John. I know it's late, but you need to come see this now." Lisa Montgomery arrived 20 minutes later, her hair messy and jacket thrown on over pajamas. She leaned over John's shoulder and studied the screen. "What am I looking at, John?" she asked, squinting at the numbers and symbols scrolling across the monitor. "It's a message," John said. "Not random noise. Look at the math patterns. They repeat in ways that only happen when someone makes them happen." Lisa's eyes widened as she understood. "You're saying this is artificial. A transmission from—" "Not from Earth," John finished. "The signal is coming from near Jupiter's orbit, but there's no human spacecraft there right now." Lisa grabbed the phone on the wall. "I'm calling Director Harris. Keep working on breaking down that signal." For the next 3 hours, John worked without stopping. He ran every code-breaking program NASA had. Slowly, the strange message began to make sense. It wasn't in any human language, but the mathematics translated into coordinates, times, and what looked like military formations. By sunrise, the room had filled with government officials in suits and military officers in uniform. John, still in his wrinkled shirt from yesterday, stood before them with shaking hands as he explained what he found. "It's a military communication," he said. "Based on the star maps embedded in the message, we believe it's from something called the Varaxian Imperium. And they're talking about Earth." Director Harris, a tall woman with gray hair and a stern face, stepped forward. "And what are they saying about Earth, Mr. Miller?" John swallowed hard. "They're planning to attack us, ma'am. The message contains invasion plans, fleet positions, weapon systems. They've mapped our defenses, our military bases, our major cities." He pointed to a series of numbers on his printout. "And according to this timestamp conversion, they plan to arrive in 14 days. The room fell silent. General Frank Peterson, the highest-ranking military officer present, was the first to speak. "How sure are you about this translation, son?" "The math is universal, sir," John replied. "We may not understand their language, but numbers work the same across the universe. These are attack coordinates centered on Earth. There's no other way to read it." President William Crawford was briefed within the hour. By noon, an emergency United Nations session had been called. The world's leaders gathered to face a threat none of them had ever imagined possible. Humanity had just 2 weeks to prepare for an alien invasion, and their only advantage was a single intercepted message that was never meant for human ears. Dr. Olivia Martinez hadn't slept in 36 hours. The office around her was filled with empty coffee cups and papers covered in strange symbols and equations. As the director of SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, she had spent her whole life looking for signs of alien life. Now that life had found Earth, and it wanted to destroy them. "We need to send a message," she said to the room full of scientists and government officials. "If we can't fight them, maybe we can call for help." General Peterson laughed without humor. "Doctor, who exactly are we calling? We don't know anyone else out there." Olivia stood up straight. "The universe is vast. The Varaxians can't be the only advanced species. There might be others who fear them or fight against them. We need to try." President Crawford nodded slowly. "What do you suggest, Doctor?" "A broadcast, a powerful one, sent in all directions. We tell anyone listening about the Varaxian attack plans. We share what we know and ask for help. The emergency United Nations meeting was filled with shouting and arguments. Many leaders feared that revealing Earth's knowledge of the attack plans would only make the Varaxians attack sooner. If they know we intercepted their message, they'll strike immediately. The British Prime Minister argued. If we do nothing, we die in 2 weeks anyway. Olivia replied calmly. This might be our only chance. After hours of debate, they took a vote. By a small margin, the plan was approved. Olivia and her team would have just 48 hours to craft the most important message in human history. At the giant radio telescope in Arecibo, Puerto Rico, technicians worked around the clock to maximize broadcast power. Similar preparations happened at radio telescopes in China, Australia, and South Africa. They would send the same message from multiple points on Earth, increasing the chances it would be heard. Olivia's team created a message that began with basic mathematics, universal concepts that any advanced species would recognize. Then came simple images of humans, Earth, and our solar system, followed by a warning about the Varaxians. The message ended with the complete invasion plans Earth had intercepted, including coordinates and timestamps. We're ready, Olivia told President Crawford on a secure video call. All broadcast stations are standing by. The president looked tired, but determined on the screen. Dr. Martinez, if this works, you may save humanity. If it fails, he didn't finish the thought. Begin transmission. Olivia took a deep breath and pressed the button that would send Earth's desperate cry for help into the depths of space. The giant dishes of the radio telescopes turned toward the stars. Power surged through the systems. The message shot outward at the speed of light, crossing the distance to the moon in just over a second, reaching Mars in minutes. Nobody spoke as the transmission continued. Some staff members prayed. Others held hands. Olivia watched the power readings, making sure the signal remained strong. After an hour, the transmission was complete. The message was now traveling through space in all directions, a tiny bubble of hope expanding outward from Earth. Now what? Asked Steve Connors, one of Olivia's youngest team members. Now we prepare as best we can, she answered. And we wait. The world's militaries mobilized, but everyone knew Earth's weapons would be useless against a species capable of interstellar travel. Countries began building underground shelters. Families gathered supplies. Religious services were filled to capacity. No one expected an answer to come so soon. 5 days after sending their message, at 3:42 p.m. Eastern Time, enormous objects appeared in Earth's orbit. They were not the Varaxian attackers. They had arrived 9 days early. Panic spread across the globe when the giant ships appeared. They were huge, each one bigger than a small city. Television channels showed nothing else. Social media exploded with fear and wild theories. Some people ran to the countryside, while others hid in basements. In Houston, Texas, military vehicles filled the streets. Soldiers with serious faces directed people to stay indoors. Fighter jets flew overhead, ready but clearly no match for the alien vessels that hung silently in the sky. The largest ship moved down through the clouds, settling in a large empty field outside the city. It made no aggressive moves. No weapons fired. It simply waited. What do we do now? Asked President Crawford, surrounded by advisors in the underground White House Command Center. They haven't attacked, General Peterson noted. That's something. We need to make contact, said Jack Bennett, stepping forward. Jack worked for the State Department, studying how humans might someday talk with aliens. He never expected to use those skills so soon. Mr. Bennett, are you volunteering? Asked the president. Jack swallowed hard but nodded. Yes, sir. I am. 3 hours later, Jack stood in the field near Houston, waiting. Behind him were military vehicles and soldiers. News helicopters circled overhead, filming everything. The entire world watched as a section of the massive ship began to open. A ramp extended to the ground. 3 tall figures walked down slowly. They didn't look how most people expected aliens to look. They were humanoid, with 2 arms and 2 legs, but their skin was a pale blue color. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, and they had no visible ears. They wore simple gray uniforms with no clear weapons. Jack took a deep breath and stepped forward as they approached. He raised his hand in a universal greeting gesture. "I am Jack Bennett, representing Earth," he said clearly. "We welcome you and thank you for responding to our message." The center alien raised a small device. When it spoke, the device translated its words into English. "I am Ambassador Zoril of the Arcturian Compact. We received your warning about the Varaxian attack fleet. We came to verify if it was true." Jack nodded. "It is true. We intercepted their communications. They plan to attack in 9 more days." The alien seemed surprised. "You intercepted Varaxian military communications. Impressive. Most species cannot do this." "It was luck," Jack admitted. "But we knew we couldn't fight them alone. That's why we sent the warning." The alien ambassador tilted its head. "This is what puzzles us. Most planets, when they learn of a Varaxian attack, try to save only themselves. They beg for mercy or offer to join the Varaxians. You chose instead to warn others about the danger." Jack hadn't expected this reaction. "It seemed like the right thing to do," he said simply. Ambassador Zoril studied him for a long moment. "The Arcturian Compact consists of 17 different species who have united against Varaxian expansion. For centuries, they have conquered world after world. You are the first civilization to ever warn others about an incoming attack instead of trying to save only yourselves." The alien made a gesture that might have been respect. "This act of solidarity has impressed our Council of Species. We have come not just to verify your warning, but to offer you alliance." Jack could hardly believe what he was hearing. "You'll help us?" "Yes," said the ambassador. "The Varaxian Empire has grown too powerful. Your warning gave us the chance to intercept their attack fleet before they reach your world." For the first time in days, Jack felt hope. "What happens now?" "Now," said Ambassador Zoril, "we prepare Earth to join the Arcturian Compact. Together, we will stand against the Varaxians." As Jack and the alien delegation headed toward the waiting government officials, people began to emerge from their homes. The fear in their faces was slowly being replaced by wonder and cautious hope. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and no longer defenseless. The United Nations building had never seen a meeting like this one. Leaders from every country sat beside blue-skinned Arcturian officials. Screens showed representatives from other alien species who couldn't breathe Earth's air. They all watched as President Crawford signed the Treaty of Houston, making Earth the newest member of the Arcturian Compact. With this signature, the president said, "Humanity joins the galactic community." Ambassador Zoril placed his hand on a glowing panel, confirming the treaty for the compact. "We welcome Earth as our ally and friend." Outside, enormous Arcturian ships moved into defensive positions around the planet. Some were bigger than Manhattan. Their weapon systems could destroy entire cities in seconds. But now, these weapons were aimed outward, ready to protect Earth from the coming Varaxian attack. Susan Reeves watched all this from the window of an Arcturian shuttle heading to their flagship. Susan had been designing weapons for the U.S. military for 15 years. Now she was part of a team of Earth engineers invited to share human military technology with the aliens. "I still can't believe this is happening," she said to Paul Winters, a missile guidance expert sitting beside her. Paul nodded. "Yesterday I was working on a new fighter jet. Today I'm going to an alien spaceship to help fight an empire from another star." The shuttle docked with a massive Arcturian vessel. Susan's first view of the ship's interior took her breath away. It was beautiful, with curved walls that glowed with soft light and technology beyond her understanding. An Arcturian engineer named Kelox met them. He was taller than the others they had seen, with darker blue skin and four-fingered hands. "Welcome," he said through his translation device. "We are eager to learn about your weapon systems." Susan felt embarrassed. "Our technology must seem very primitive to you," she said. Kelox made a gesture that seemed like a shrug. "Different, not primitive. The Varaxians have adapted to our weapons over centuries of conflict. Your technology follows different paths. It may give us an advantage. For hours, Susan and her team shared everything they knew about Earth's military technology. They showed designs for missile guidance systems, radar-evading aircraft, and underwater weapons. The Arcturians watched with growing interest. Your targeting algorithms are unlike anything we use, said Kilox, studying a missile guidance system. They follow logic patterns we never considered. Is that good? Asked Susan. Very good, said Kilox. The Varaxians predict enemy behavior based on known patterns. Your weapons don't follow those patterns. They won't know how to defend against them. Susan began to understand. So our primitive technology might actually work better because it's unexpected. Exactly, said Kilox. The Varaxians are powerful but rigid in their thinking. They expect enemies to behave in certain ways. Your species thinks differently. In the next room, Paul was having a similar conversation about submarine warfare tactics. Fighting underwater is similar to space combat in many ways, he explained. You have to think in 3 dimensions with limited visibility. The Arcturians listened carefully, taking notes and asking questions. Soon, engineers from both species were working together, combining Earth's unexpected approaches with Arcturian advanced technology. On the main deck, Admiral Theron of the Arcturian Defense Fleet studied the combined sensor data showing the approaching Varaxian ships. They'll be here in 5 days, he told Jack Bennett, who had been appointed as Earth's ambassador to the compact. We're integrating your weapons systems into our defense platforms now. Jack watched as dozens of smaller Arcturian ships practiced new flight patterns based on Earth fighter jet tactics. Will it be enough? He asked. Admiral Theron's expression was hard to read. The Varaxians have never faced a combined defense like this. They expect to find an isolated, primitive world ready for conquest. Instead, they'll face the compact fleet and human innovation together. For the first time since the crisis began, Jack allowed himself to feel real hope. Earth wasn't facing this threat alone anymore. And surprisingly, humans had valuable skills to offer their new alien allies. The Varaxian battle fleet arrived exactly as the intercepted message had predicted. Their ships were black and angular, like giant spears pointing at Earth. There were hundreds of them, filling the sky like storm clouds. Inside the Arcturian command ship, Admiral Theron stood before a huge screen showing the enemy fleet. Beside him stood Lieutenant Ryan Clark, a Navy officer who had been chosen to join the Joint Defense Force because of his submarine warfare experience. They're using a standard approach formation, said Admiral Theron. Just as we expected. Ryan studied the screen carefully. They still think they're surprising us. The Admiral nodded. That advantage won't last long. Once they realize we're ready for them, they'll change tactics. Ryan pointed to a cluster of ships near the front of the enemy fleet. That's their command center, right? Based on the formation. Yes, the Admiral replied. Why? If we hit them hard and fast, before they realize what's happening, we might confuse their chain of command. The Admiral considered this. A bold move. The Varaxians rely heavily on central command. If we disrupt it, they won't know how to react. Ryan finished. In submarine warfare, we call it cutting off the head. Admiral Theron made a decision. Lieutenant Clark, I'm placing you in command of Strike Force 7. Your mission is to target the Varaxian command vessels using the new combined weapon systems. Ryan's eyes widened. He had never expected to command a space battle, but his years underwater had taught him how to think in 3 dimensions and fight an enemy he couldn't always see, skills that translated surprisingly well to space combat. Yes, sir, he said. Across Earth, billions of people watched the battle on their screens. Arcturian viewing technology had been quickly distributed to show what was happening in space. Everyone held their breath as the first shots were fired. The Varaxians, expecting to find a helpless Earth, were shocked to face a combined human-Arcturian defense force. Their first attack wave crashed against shields they hadn't known existed. Their second wave met a swarm of ships using flight patterns they had never seen before. Ryan's strike force moved through the chaos, using a mix of Arcturian stealth technology and human submarine tactics. They approached the Varaxian command ships from below and behind, the last place the enemy would expect an attack. They're thinking like traditional naval commanders, Ryan told his mixed crew of humans and Arcturians. They expect frontal attacks or maybe flanking maneuvers. They don't understand true three-dimensional warfare. The strike force launched their weapons, missiles guided by human algorithms, but powered by Arcturian technology. The Varaxians didn't detect them until it was too late. Explosions bloomed silently in space as 3 Varaxian command ships were hit. The rest of their fleet faltered, suddenly receiving confused and contradictory orders. Admiral Theron watched from the main bridge. "Now," he ordered. The main Arcturian fleet surged forward, supported by Earth's remaining military forces. The battle raged for 3 days. The Varaxians fought fiercely, but they had lost their advantage of surprise, and their centralized command structure was in chaos. They couldn't adapt to the unpredictable human tactics integrated into the Arcturian attack patterns. On the 3rd day, the remaining Varaxian ships gathered in a defensive formation. Then, to everyone's surprise, they turned and accelerated away from Earth, jumping to faster-than-light speed. A cheer went up on the Arcturian bridge. Ryan could hardly believe it. "They're retreating?" he asked. Admiral Theron's expression showed both relief and concern. "Yes, but not in defeat. They'll return with a larger force. The Varaxian Empire is vast." "How long do we have?" asked Ryan. "Months, perhaps a year," said the Admiral. "They must gather forces from across their territory." Ryan nodded gravely. "Then we have work to do." The battle was over, but the war had just begun. Earth had survived its first interstellar conflict, but everyone knew the Varaxians would return. The question now was, what would humanity do with the time they had gained? 1 month after the battle, Karen Walsh stood on the observation deck of an Arcturian diplomatic vessel. The stars looked different here, so far from Earth. As a career diplomat, Karen had represented her country in difficult negotiations around the world. Now she represented all of Earth in the most important diplomatic mission in human history. "We're approaching Proxima space," said Ambassador Zorel, joining her at the window. "Their confederation controls 27 systems. If they join our alliance, the Varaxians might think twice about attacking again." Karen nodded. "And if they don't join us?" "Then Earth remains in great danger," said Zorel simply. "The Varaxians will return with a force 10 times larger than before." The Arcturian Compact had sent diplomatic missions to a dozen neutral powers across the galaxy. Karen had been chosen to lead the mission to the Proxima Confederation, one of the most powerful neutral groups. Her reputation for solving seemingly impossible conflicts had earned her this role. The Proxima homeworld was beautiful, a planet with 3 moons and vast purple oceans. Their cities were built in tall spiral shapes that reached into the clouds. The Proximans themselves were shorter than humans, with gray skin and 4 arms. The Council of Proxima received them in a grand hall. 20 council members sat in a circle, looking down at Karen and Ambassador Zorel with skeptical eyes. "We have maintained neutrality in the Varaxian conflict for 300 years, said the head counselor. "Why should we change that now?" Karen stepped forward. "Because neutrality only works when both sides respect it. The Varaxians respect nothing. Today they attack Earth. Tomorrow it will be your worlds." A counselor waved 2 of her 4 hands dismissively. "The Varaxians know better than to attack us. We have powerful defenses." "So did many worlds that now serve the Varaxian Empire," Karen replied. "They don't attack all at once. They isolate. They divide. They conquer one world at a time until no one is left to stand against them." The council members muttered among themselves. Karen could see she wasn't convincing them. She needed a different approach. "We don't ask you to fight for us," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We ask you to stand with us." Earth has developed a warning system that can detect Varaxian communications. We can provide early intelligence about their movements to you and all who join our alliance." This caught their attention. The Proxima Confederation valued information above all else. "What would you want in return?" asked the head counselor. "A mutual defense agreement," said Karen. "If the Varaxians attack any member of our alliance, all members respond together." The council chamber filled with debate. Some members argued that joining the alliance would make them targets. Others said that the Varaxians already considered them enemies and were just waiting for the right moment to attack. Karen waited patiently. Ambassador Zorel had warned her that Proximan debates could last for days. But to everyone's surprise, they called for a vote that same day. "Your warning system provides something valuable," the head counselor told Karen afterward. "But it was your approach that swayed us. Most species come begging for our protection. Earth comes offering partnership." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Karen's diplomatic team visited 7 worlds in 2 months. Each time, they offered the same deal: Earth's warning system and intelligence in exchange for mutual protection. One by one, formerly neutral powers joined the alliance. Each new member made the coalition stronger and the Varaxians' position weaker. Back on Earth, preparations continued. Human scientists worked with alien engineers to build better defenses. Cities constructed underground shelters. Military forces trained with new weapons. The Varaxian Empire, faced with a rapidly growing alliance against them, found themselves in an unfamiliar position. Uncertainty. Their usual tactics of isolating targets no longer worked. Earth's warning system meant their movements were being tracked and shared across the alliance. For the first time in centuries, the Varaxian Emperor called for a council of war. The situation had become serious enough to require a new approach. 1 year had passed since John Miller first saw the strange signal on his computer screen. In that year, Earth had changed more than in the previous century. Arcturian technology had helped solve many of Earth's biggest problems. Clean energy-powered cities that once depended on fossil fuels. New medicines cured diseases that humans had fought for generations. And the environment, damaged by years of pollution, was slowly healing. But the greatest change was in how humans saw themselves. No longer alone in the universe, humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or as victims, but as valued allies. Daniel Rivers stood on the stage of the Grand Hall on the neutral world of Centauri Prime. Once a high school physics teacher from Cleveland, he was now Earth's ambassador to the newly formed Galactic Concord. Around him stood representatives from 34 different species, all gathered to sign the Treaty of New Beginning. The Varaxian Emperor himself sat at the far end of the table. After months of fighting losing battles against the growing alliance, the Empire had finally agreed to peace talks. Their centuries of expansion had come to an end. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history," said the Centaurian mediator. "The signing of this treaty will establish boundaries that the Varaxian Empire has agreed not to cross, and create a council where future disputes can be resolved without war." When it was Daniel's turn to speak, he looked out at the assembled aliens, some with multiple eyes, some with blue or green skin, some who breathed different air and lived on worlds humans could never visit. Yet they were all united by a desire for peace. 1 year ago, Earth was alone and facing destruction, Daniel began. "We sent a message into the darkness, not knowing if anyone would hear or care. We chose to warn others rather than trying to save only ourselves." Bahal was silent as he continued. "We came to the galactic community not as conquerors or as the conquered. We arrived as equals, offering what little we had, a warning that revealed our true character. In choosing to help others before ourselves, humanity showed what we value most: cooperation, community, and courage." Even the Varaxian delegates seemed thoughtful as Daniel spoke. Their culture valued strength above all else, but they had been defeated not by superior weapons, but by the united strength of many different worlds working together. After the ceremony, the Arcturian High Chancellor approached Daniel. Your people have accomplished what we could not in centuries, the alien leader admitted. The Varaxians never understood the power of trust and cooperation. They saw only weakness in working together. But humans showed the galaxy another path. Daniel smiled. We're still learning ourselves. Earth wasn't always united before all this happened. That makes it even more remarkable, said the Chancellor. Your species faced its greatest threat and chose to become its best self. As Daniel looked out at the stars from the observation deck later that night, he thought about how much had changed. Earth now had friends among the stars. Human ideas and innovations were spreading throughout the Alliance, and somewhere out there, John Miller was working with alien scientists to build an even better early warning system to keep the peace. Earth, once targeted for conquest, had become the catalyst for a new era of galactic cooperation, and it had all begun with a single warning transmission, sent in humanity's darkest hour, that revealed not their technology or strength, but their character. The choice to help others, even when facing destruction themselves, had saved not just Earth, but changed the course of galactic history forever. ****, the end ****.